There was some white on white crime today. White on white crime today. There's a podcast, H3 Podcast, that was going after Joe Rogan. Going after Joe Rogan hard. And I found it funny. It was hilarious, man, if you really look at it. His name is Ethan Klein, right? And that's the H3 Podcast. So, let's see. Let me see what he said. So he was calling out Joe Rogan. And I think it started over Joe Rogan's, he said Joe Rogan is enabling, and he's enabling and sending out misinformation. That's what it is. Misinformation about the jab. Okay? About the jab. So I got to be careful what language I use because we don't want no problems. So it started off, he says, let me get to it. Joe is on a big pharma conspiracy against vaccines. Someone needs to ask him who makes ivermectin and Regeneron and all the other shit he took when he had COVID. And I don't even think that's where it started. I know I'm out of sequence here. He's like posting pictures of Joe Rogan, saying Joe Rogan is pumped up full of HGH, human growth hormone. It's like coming down really hard on Joe Rogan about some of his comments. Joe Rogan, who lives on elk meat, egg yolk, and human growth hormone, with lungs full of tar, thinks he's healthier than everyone. This motherfucker is such a bitch that when he got COVID, he threw the kitchen sink at it. If you're so healthy, just ride it out like you say a man should. He said, dude has caused so much vaccine hesitancy and misinformation, and he doesn't even have the balls to stand by the shit he preaches. Now he's on his show talking about how fat people should just die of COVID. Dude is such a fucking piece of shit. Instead of getting vaccinated, he takes Regeneron, an experimental drug that was developed alongside Moderna. His logic makes no sense and then credits ivermectin, which does fucking nothing for COVID. Not to mention whatever the fuck is out for brain. Meanwhile, while Joe is on a big pharma conspiracy against vaccines, someone needs to ask him who makes ivermectin and Regeneron and all the other shit he took when he had COVID. So, and then it just degenerated into this conversation. That's cool. It degenerated to this conversation about Ethan being overweight, obese, and how, and how Joe Rogan's always talking about everybody needs to lose weight, and that's how you fight. You don't need the jab if you lose weight, and you'll be okay. And they like comparing, they keep comparing these two guys, as if that's the conversation. This is bad. It's very bad. So anyway, it's just the epitome of white on white crime. And I'm look, as a fat guy myself. Oh God. This is not good. I think you know that. I think we all can agree that it's not good to be obese. But we also can agree that the issues surrounding COVID or surrounding the health impacts of this won't all be solved just by running a couple laps. Like, you need to already be in good shape. My little brother, who is not obese, him and his girlfriend recently caught COVID. They both contracted it. They both had both shots and a booster. Now, they're at home. So the only thing when I think about it is, okay, luckily it's not in the hospital. Maybe that's the reason why it's not in the hospital. They say the symptoms would have been a lot worse and the effects of the virus would be a lot more worse and more detrimental and more life-threatening. It may require hospitalization if you did not have these, have the shots. Look, Joe Rogan says a lot of things on his show. He's a very powerful guy at this point. Everyone wants to go on the Joe Rogan show. Everybody wants to kick it with Joe. And this white on white crime must stop. Look, I think Ethan's only calling out Joe because Joe said something about fat people. And that hit a chord with Ethan. And look, Joe Rogan has a huge audience. It's very influential. But for God's sake, man, if there are people that are not listening at all to medical advice and not considering what's going on in this country with the Omicron, and they're just going with Joe Rogan, and if you're deducing what Joe Rogan's saying is saying you don't need any type of medical attention, you just need to run a few laps and not eat pizza, well, then that's some stupid shit. I'm not saying that there aren't people that would forego a jab and say, well, I'm just going to drink water and fast for a couple months and see how that works. Those people, that would be crazy. Because you could be healthy, you could still not be obese and still get sick. People die of shit all the time that aren't obese. So I don't think that necessarily makes you, of course, not being obese would help in everything. I can't think of a single thing being obese helps you in, except maybe getting shot in the stomach. I don't even know if it helps you then. And that's coming from a fat guy. I wouldn't say I'm obese, I'm overweight. I'm more than 10 pounds overweight, so I guess that would qualifies you. But I'll say this. Let me just say this, guys. Joe Rogan should not be the determiner, or the influencer on what your health should be. I know people want to make him that way. People want to look at it that way. I don't know if regular people really think that way, though. Just because he has a large reach and people listen to him doesn't mean they're not going to listen to their doctor over Joe Rogan. So I think we got this strange mix of some people wanting to get some oxygen or some reach after going after Joe Rogan. Like, if you went after Joe Rogan every day, it probably would help your scores, help your numbers. I'm not saying that's what Ethan's doing necessarily, but I think some people do that. And I also think he's in the media game. We got to recognize there's a media game at play. This whole, I just smoke weed and I'm just a cool guy and I don't really care about nothing, I think that's out the window when you start making that type of money. Maybe it started out, he had a podcast where him and his friends just kicked it and smoked weed and drank and talked shit. Like, yeah, maybe that's how it started out, but somewhere along the line it became big business. And you can't tell me that there are some games being played. If there are some things, some moves being done, some strategy in place. Like, at play. There got to be some strategy implemented at some point. It's too many lives. Too many people's livelihoods are at stake. You got employees. Like, Joe Rogan runs a company now. When you run a company, you have employees. You can't just be like, it's just a bunch of guys hanging out. We just talk and get high. No. I don't think it's been that way for a decade. It was a long time ago, back when Patrice O'Neal was around. Like back in the day, back when Charlie Murphy would come through. Back when, this was back in the day. Now, this is a full-blown, the Rogan Enterprise is a full-blown media entity. And I look at it just like I look at all media entities at this point. And I look at criticism the same way of Joe Rogan. I look at that the same way I look at media entities at this point. I look at it all the same. There's a vested interest in going after him. There are some people that are going to listen. There's some people that listen to Tucker. I don't know why the hell they do that. There's some people that listen to Joy Reid. I don't know why they do that. I don't know why people do anything they do. I don't get it. There are people that listen to Rachel Maddow. I don't get that either. To me, that's just as crazy. At least Joe will say, hey, I don't know shit. Okay? I also think that's a shtick. Maybe it protects you a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I need to say that. But I don't really give advice, do I? So I guess it doesn't matter because I'm never telling people what to do, and I don't bring on scientists that tell you what to do or expound. I don't know. I don't. So anyway, this whole thing has been hilarious. It's hilarious watching. Great memes came out of it. I think people need to calm down. I don't think Joe Rogan's running the planet. I don't think Joe Rogan has disciples that are going to jump off buildings like zombies. I think people listen, just like they listen to anything else. They can choose not to listen. I don't think Joe's saying, hey, let's go destroy this building. He's not dangerous in that way. I mean, if they're just talking, people talk. And and for the record, don't blame all vaccine hesitancy on Joe Rogan. There's a lot of vaccine hesitancy in the black community, and that ain't because of Joe Rogan. That's because of Joe Crowd. That's because of America. From Joe America. That's it, Joe Public, Joe America, and Joe Segregation, and Joe Experimentation, and Joe History. Okay? But it ain't because of Joe Rogan. Okay? So, hope I pulled that back quick enough because no problems. But yeah, that's what's going on. So, that's where I stand on that. I think it's hilarious. It is funny as shit seeing these, and I can't say it's white on white crime because I doubt Joe Rogan even responds. Why would he respond? We don't give a shit. He knows responding helps this guy. So he probably won't. Or maybe he'll be cool and he will. Because, like he says, hey, this guy get high with my friends and just talk and we smoke some weed and eat some elk and we just have conversations. We'll see. All right. You guys ready to open up phone calls? I'm ready for phone calls. Damn, what a talker. What a chatterbox. What a chatterbox I was today, Johnson. Damn, I was like going on one, huh? Yeah, like I got some black folks. I know some black folks who didn't get any jabs, and they don't listen to Joe Rogan. So, pump the brakes on the whole, hey, it's Rogan's fault. Nah, it's America's fault. Like, you know what I'm saying? And look, and there are white people who didn't get the jab too, and they don't listen to Joe Rogan. They just listen to their own conscience. They listen to, they listen to their history. And they have a disdain, they have a distrust of the U.S. government. And where'd that come from? I wonder where they got that idea. Oh, history. So, America has done a good job of lying to us and getting caught in lies, and people like, I'm not trusting America on this shit. So, I think you can't put it all on one guy who's, has a podcast. No matter how many people listen to the podcast. I mean, Michael Jackson, he may have made me want to buy one glove when I was a kid, but like he ain't responsible for everybody who did the moonwalk. Someone taught him that. All right.